We've got some potentially bad news for ReZero fans, or at the very least, bad news for anybody that is a fan of the studio White Fox. Yes, the publisher company, Alphapolis, is resolved to acquire all shares of White Fox Co Ltd, with emphasis in their statements to accelerate the animation of our IPs. Which that last part right there, I think, is what has brought me the conclusion that I think potentially White Fox Studio is cooked. At this point, I don't think it's not going to have at least the pedigree that I think a lot of people have come to love White Fox for. I think it's probably at this point going to end up going downhill. I think we're going to have a period of time where they're going to continue to work on ReZero. They're probably going to do an excellent job with that. But I think beyond that, it's looking pretty bleak. It's looking pretty bleak. But I'm going to go through essentially what exactly happened with this whole thing, who Alphapolis is, and why I think this isn't a good thing, and what it means for, again, White Fox, what it means for ReZero. And yes, there's a lot of people concerned, so I'll talk about it as well. What does it mean for Studio Bind, who of course is partially owned by White Fox? But let's get into it. What is Alphapolis? What makes Andrew think this means that White Fox is going downhill? Alphapolis is pretty much known for having a lot of what many would call isekai slop properties. They're not known for having some big epic isekai series or even something in general that is good. I mean, let's look at on Mal. And again, this is going to be mostly just produced stuff for anime, but these are pretty much all their properties. They're producing them because that's their properties. So yeah, you have the VR MMO dude, the new Gate, which I barely even got into that show. Monster. I mean, it's got its fandom. I think it's potentially a really good book, but as an anime, it wasn't great. It just didn't really kind of translate to an anime very well. Raising kids in isekai. I mean, these aren't good. Atelier Meister. I mean, the only properties they have that I like is Tsukimichi. And even the recent season kind of lost me, but I still enjoy it. I like Gate as well, which apparently is one of their properties. It depends on who you asked if that's a good thing or not. I like it. I know that a lot of people hate it. Even my own community hates it. So it's like one of those moments where I go, oh, good. So I'm not in a bubble with my community. A lot of people in my community, even my mods, don't like Gate. I like it. I even have a little Rory figure right here. Okay, she's back there. Anyways, they're not known for having high caliber stuff. And again, with their statement, they say they're going to accelerate animation of their IPs. So this means that pretty much this is going to be White Fox going forward. This right here is White Fox. I think the only thing potentially they're good, again, is Gate having good stuff and Tsukimichi having good animation. But I think what's overall going to happen is that it's going to be a lot of really low production stuff coming in here because Alphapolis isn't like a big company. The budgeting and whatnot's probably going to be very, very little. But let's get into the actual statement that they made on their website. They end up having released an entire report here. Let's see what exactly it says. Notice regarding the acquisition subsidiaries of shares of White Fox Ltd. At the board of directors meeting held on July 31st, our company resolved to acquire all shares of White Fox and make it a subsidiary as outlined below. Reason for the shares acquisition: as a pioneer in internet-based publishing, our company has operated under the mission of not being bound by conventional methods or common sense, and pursuing what is good, interesting, and desired to the utmost, with our goal of creating new entertainment suited for internet age. We have been engaged in publishing novels and manga that have gained attention online. A little bit of self-fluffing there. In addition to publishing, we aim to expand our multifaceted businesses, such as anime adaptations of our in-house intellectual properties, accumulated through publishing, merchandise sales, and gaming ventures. In particular, the expansion of our anime business has been designated as a core component of our medium-term strategic focus. We are actively working to increase media adaptation of our IPs through anime and raise our investment ratio in anime production. You notice there, again, so much emphasis that Alpha's given here to we're going to produce anime. We're going to produce anime. We're making anime. Make anime. That's my concern that I'm kind of building here. White Fox is a full-service animation studio with a proven track record producing well-known television series animes like ReZero, Starting Life in Another World series. The studio is widely recognized both within and outside the anime industry for its high production capabilities and technical expertise. Thus, we want to make sure that we overflood it with a ton of crap that it has to adapt to make us more money. Recently, while the anime market continues to grow and the demand of high-quality animation productions increases, there is a notable shortage of talented animators and studios with advanced production know-how. That's the only part where I'm kind of like, okay, maybe they won't destroy White Fox. That's the only part of it that says, okay, maybe they won't destroy the studio and overflood it with slop. We'll see. By acquiring shares of White Fox and making a consolidated subsidiary, we will establish a framework within the group for producing visual content. This will enable us to animate our rich IP catalog using White Fox's advanced production technologies. Through this acquisition, we expect to accelerate the animation of our IPs. Now, this doesn't mean to push White Fox to move faster, but it means that because they are owned by them, they're able to get in the front of the line, essentially. Attracting new fan bases, including the overseas market, through our high-quality anime visuals. Again, emphasis there, they still want to have high-quality stuff. Increase the recognition of our company and its works. We have determined that this acquisition will significantly contribute to the realization of our medium-term strategy focus on expanding the anime business, and thus have decided to proceed with the acquisition of White Fox. They conclude with, going forward, we will continue to strengthen our publishing businesses while striving to expand our business domains and enhance corporate value. In the actual release they did as well, they did list all the finances and whatnot. The concerning thing in the finances is that their net profits for, I think it says the last 3 years, is $25,000, like USD, 3.9 million Japanese yen. I mean, that's a lot of studios are like that. They're not really making much profit. They're just like barely surviving, whatever. They're just, again, they could just be shuffling numbers. This was 100% owned by Gaku Iwase, apparently. So yeah, it's kind of bad news. And again, a lot of my concern around this company, Alphapolis, buying up White Fox is the fact that, again, there's so much emphasis on we're going to be in the front of the line and we're going to animate a lot of our stuff. They're going to just turn out this stuff to get their name out there and all that kind of stuff. And now, why I say this is a concern for ReZero. Let's get into why this is a dangerous thing for ReZero specifically. Yes, the fact that they're going to be focusing on their properties means that White Fox isn't going to have time to do other properties. And yeah, obviously, Alphapolis does not own ReZero. That's Kadokawa. Kadokawa owns that. And yes, obviously for the last 5 years, ReZero has been mostly White Fox's focus. Besides a lot of controversy that people have around things like Sengoku Yoko and stuff like that, there's not much they're doing here. This is the last 5 years right here. And this is pretty much a movie, a series, Utawara Mono, 3 cores, I think, of Sengoku Yoko. Then you go right back to ReZero, and then you have Gachi Fighter here. This isn't a studio known for having, like, again, every single season they have a new show coming out. This is a studio that kind of takes its time. Yes, there's still kind of low-budget stuff. I'm not going to claim that, Gachi Fighter looks incredible. Shoot, even Sengoku Yoko wasn't the most incredibly animated thing at the time. They kind of kept it very minimal. It was better than most of this particular creator's works being adapted, like with Biscuit Hammer and whatnot, but it's not, like, incredible animation here. Utawara Mono looked very, very good, but for the most part, their focus for quite a while has been mostly ReZero. And I think that sort of is why ReZero looks the way it does. Now, again, why I think this is bad for ReZero specifically is that you're going to start having a lot of Alphapolis stuff start to kind of flood into their production line. They didn't buy White Fox for nothing. And again, in their own statement, they said the acquisition is to accelerate the animation of their properties. That means that White Fox, as a studio and their team and their animators, are going to have less time to work on ReZero, ultimately leading to a lot of delays if White Fox even continues to do ReZero, and more of these other properties taking up their schedule. Which leads me to kind of my prediction is what's going to happen is most likely after they finish the current ReZero adaptation they're doing, or at least Season 4 Part 1 or whatever, whenever they finish up this production, I think Kadokawa is probably going to have to look for a different studio. Because what's going to happen is that beyond this adaptation right here, they're going to say, we don't have time to produce it, or you're going to have to wait till a little bit later because we need to get some Alphapolis stuff in here. So that's where I get the conclusion that if you are a big fan of ReZero, and specifically you love ReZero being adapted by White Fox, I would set your expectations going forward that White Fox is not going to be doing it anymore. I think what's going to happen is White Fox is going to get flooded with Alphapolis stuff, and Kadokawa is going to realize at some point, we can't wait for you, or your quality isn't up to snuff that it used to be, and so we're going to take it somewhere else. But that's assuming that Kadokawa cares that much about scheduling and the quality itself, which I would assume so, because this has been doing very, very well for them. But either way, I think in the end, what this is sort of going to spell, because again, I don't think that Alphapolis is a grand company, is probably turning White Fox gradually over time to start turning out essentially titles that I think a lot of people don't really care about. You know, like a season 2 of Atelier Meister. We're going to get a season 2 of Atelier Meister. Whoopee. Now, like I said earlier, there is one other concern that a lot of people have, and that is the fact that, yes, Studio Bind is technically a joint venture by both White Fox and Egg Firm. Yes, a joint venture typically means it's a 50-50 split. The two of them have to agree of anything that happens with Studio Bind, which means that, yes, Alphapolis buying White Fox means that they now have co-ownership of Studio Bind. So a lot of people are going to be concerned, obviously, that, oh no, that means that Alphapolis is going to mess with Studio Bind now. Mushoku Tensei is in danger or whatever. I don't think that's going to happen. Because, again, because it is a joint venture, it means that both sides, both parties have to agree with stuff. So it doesn't mean that Alphapolis suddenly walks into the White Fox studios and goes, all right, now, get Bind on the phone for me. I'm going to tell them to start adapting more titles. We have 2 studios now, right? Not really. Not really. Again, they have to pick up the phone with Egg Firm and say, hey, we want to do this with the studio. Nope, not going to work for us. Oh, crap. Now, yes, if they get Egg Firm to agree to it, they could offload some stuff to Studio Bind. But for now, again, it's not as if Alphapolis owns them. It's not as if they're going to be forced to have them adapt stuff they want to adapt them. I'm sure there's still going to be trickle down. There's going to be things that they're going to have them do. Because again, they still own half of it. But again, it's going to be a joint agreement. Again, most of the changes that are going to be happening is going to be White Fox. Directly, specifically, White Fox. And yes, technically, there's no mention in this entire release about Studio Bind. And they could have easily brought up Studio Bind. Because again, I think it is sort of a separate entity. Because it is something that the two of them has founded together, it's off to the side. Now, I will say, with it in mind that Alphapolis did not mention Studio Bind at all, didn't mention the fact that they gained those shares, that they gained that co-ownership of Bind, I do kind of wonder if Iwasa even sold that partial ownership of Bind to them as well. Because in their statements, it says that Gaku Iwasa owned 100% of White Fox. And that thus means that Gaku Iwasa also owned partial ownership of Studio Bind. But without them saying they sold that as well, I kind of wonder if Bind is still owned by Iwasa. That's just speculation, again, because they didn't say anything. So I will say right here now, from my perspective, there's a possibility that Alphapolis has nothing to do with Studio Bind at this time. We'll have to wait and see. That's pure speculation on my end. I have no information to go based on. All I'm going based on is the fact that it wasn't mentioned. There's a chance that he still has that. I would doubt it just because I think it was registered as White Fox, obviously, having a joint venture with Egg Firm for Studio Bind, that it would be White Fox. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to mislead people on that. Just wait until something explicitly is said about it. But we'll see. In the very end, I think at this point, we won't see any sort of like drastic changes. There's not going to be some sort of shifts or something happening right off the bat. I think, again, we're probably going to have the completion of ReZero's current season they're currently producing. And hopefully nothing's really impacted for that production. And then going forward, at some point, like I said, I think we're going to see White Fox start to get a lot more properties being produced. Unfortunately, I don't have much hope for whatever is going to be produced, but we'll see. Maybe there's something, maybe there's a title out there that I'm not aware of that everybody's like, holy crap, that means we can get this adapted, and this is actually really good. Who knows? But it'll probably turn into probably a quick, rapid turning out of properties, and I think that's going to spell disaster for White Fox as a studio that, like I said earlier, is very beloved. I mean, Steins Gate, Utawara Mono, I personally absolutely adore. It's one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. I mean, a lot of really fantastic titles, and it's probably going to start shifting into this stuff, which is very unfortunate. Stuff that, unfortunately, whether it's their properties or not, what it comes down to is properties with very little value to them, and thus not going to get much value put into them. But I don't think that ReZero fans should be too afraid, because it's probably just going to turn into it's going to a different studio. And hopefully that new studio that it goes to gives it as much love and passion. But we'll have to wait and see. But that's the news. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button down below. Comment. Let me know what you think. You think this is doom and gloom? Are you doom and glooming right now? I said something in my Discord, and they're like, oh no, Andrew's dooming over it. This is not good. Andrew, of all people, is dooming over it. In the end, it's all about the producers and how much effort and scheduling they want to put into it. So we'll have to wait and see. But if you like this content and you want to support Tom more, become a member of the channel. But until next time, y'all take care.